evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Bad Baby. And tonight we have with us Betsy Foss Lewis, and we are going to be talking about all the things that are going on around our planet and her new book, Star Beings. Welcome to the show, Betsy. How are you this evening?
Well, good. It seems kind of strange to hear my maiden name said on the radio.
Oh, do you
okay.
want just go by Betsy
Betsy
Lewis?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's better. Yeah, I just put it on there for people trying to find me from high school, but no, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought that was part of your name. I beg your pardon.
No, that's okay. It was just strange to hear it tonight. Kind
Oh,
of
okay.
jolted me.
Well, maybe I'll take you back to your youth tonight.
Yes, you are.
Well, okay, Betsy. Now, this new book that you have, Star Beings, what
Yes.
inspired you to write this book?
Well, I've had so many paranormal experiences, and it started when I was 8 months old, that early. I mean, I've had a
Wow.
lot of weird things, but I was with my parents when we had a UFO experience, and they were traveling from northern Idaho to visit family in southern Idaho, and it was late at night. They ended up getting to an area called New Meadows. And New Meadows at the time were just a few ranches out there. There was really nothing. And they hadn't seen a car for miles. So they kept thinking, this is really strange. You know, there's something going on. And my mother said that she had rolled down the window. She could smell something really weird that just bothered her. And suddenly, the whole car started shaking. I mean, it was like a hand was shaking them. It was just so incredible, and this roar with it. I mean, they thought a plane was going to crash on them. That was the only thing they could think of. And my father pulled over to the side of the road. They got out. They looked around. There was nothing. The noise stopped instantly, and there was nothing in the sky. And they continued on their way. But that was the story they had always told me as I was growing up. And then my uncle in the 1980s, early 1980s, said that he had watched the movie about Betty and Barney Hill, the couple that had been abducted by aliens in New Hampshire in the 1960s. And they had lost all this time. So my uncle said that he remembered the whole incident so clearly because my parents lost 2 hours in time that they couldn't account for. They thought they were in an accident or something. So that was my first experience, which is crazy. Then my mother told me that I had invisible playmates, and I know a lot of children do. 3 years old, I would describe them. I gave them names, and they would give me messages that I refused to tell my mother about. But so I feel that that's either my spirit guides or maybe they were aliens. I'm not sure. But then my next strange event happened when I was 7 years old. And I was getting out of school, first grade, walking home. I usually walked about 3 blocks, and it was an easy little trip to walk. Took me usually 10 to 15 minutes to get home. And as I walked, I felt something watching me. I just, when you feel something, somebody's watching you, you get this strange feeling. And I looked up in the sky. It was a cloudy day, and I saw this silver disc, huge disc up in the sky, and it seemed to get larger, and it would increase and decrease in size. So I thought, what am I going to do? I started running. I'd hide in some bushes. I'd run a little bit further and hide. And somehow, now this is the really strange thing about this whole thing, I crossed a busy street, supposedly, and I went in the opposite direction of our house and went to a house that I'd never seen before, pounded on the door, and nobody answered. And I went inside and hid under the bed. I think I did, or that was a screen memory. I don't know. But that's what I remember about that. And shortly after that time, I started having these dreams. They were vivid, lucid dreams of major earth changes. I would be standing on a pier, and I would see these great, big, huge tsunami-type waves coming in. I would be trying to escape exploding volcanoes with a group of people, but I was an adult, not a child. I would be standing on the earth. I could feel the earth shaking. I felt winds, incredible winds. And you know what? We're in these times. And I'm calling them the Phoenix days. You know, star beings have been telling indigenous people for many, many years that the earth is going to go from the fourth world into the fifth world. And that we're going to see catastrophic changes because, you know, one of the things is that we've refused to change. We've refused to evolve. And that's what's going to happen. The earth is going to go through these huge, huge changes. And look what's happening. I mean, hurricane, you know, this huge hurricane just happened. Kilauea volcano erupted. The one in Guatemala just suddenly exploded, and I think it killed about 63 people. We've had sinkholes. We've had fissures opening up, the one in Kenya, and also one in Yellowstone. And what's really strange about the Yellowstone one, did you see that phoenix bird that was captured on webcam?
Yes, I did.
Yes, yes. Wasn't that's incredible? That happened about that same time. And of course, the phoenix represents birth and death and rebirth. It destroys itself from fire, and then it comes back, rebuilds itself, and is reborn again. So I think we're in those days. I don't think so. I know we are. I just know that these things are going to increase. We're going to see all these earthquakes continue. They're going to get bigger. There's going to be areas where they've never had earthquakes. We're going to see sinkholes that we've never seen before forming all over the earth, fissures, huge tears in the earth. We're going to see more volcanic activity. And that's what we've been warned about for many, many years. The star beings, if you want to call them aliens, Native Americans are calling them star beings. But, you know, it's there. And they've been around for a long time. They've been warning us for a long time, I think.
So do you think, Betsy, when you had these visions, that it was the star beings showing you what was going to happen?
I think so. I really do. I feel that I've been guided many, many times, and I've had many, many visions of the future, dreams that, you know, are precognitive dreams.
Yeah.
So I know
I've been following you. I've been following what you're posting on Facebook, and I see that you're right on, because you had posted earlier that you had had a dream of an earthquake or something like that. I think it was an earthquake.
Yeah.
And then it was a few hours later it had happened.
Yeah, well, what had happened was actually I thought I was dreaming. I felt the bed actually rise up and fall real quick. And I thought, oh my God, we're having an earthquake. And my husband was still sleeping, and the dog didn't bark or anything. I thought, must have been a vision. And, you know, like you said, an earthquake did happen a few hours later.
Wow.
So,
well,
so I've had a lot of things like that.
I've had similar things happen. I'd say about 25 years ago, I had a dream that it was bizarre. I was walking and everything was in black and white, and I was in color though. It was like I was, and it was weird, and it was like a nuclear bomb had gone off, and everything was burnt. the people that were left,
Mm,
all the bridges were gone. There were people, like the trees were all burnt and they were like dead looking, and there were bodies
yeah.
stuck in the trees. And I
Oh
remember
my
walking
gosh.
past the grocery store, and people were running in and out of the broken glass window with groceries. And I remember two women were fighting over a thing of formula for their baby. And this guy was saying, "What are you fighting over it for? You can't feed it to them. It's full of radiation." And I
Mm,
just remember I was trying to find my husband, and I got to the river. I was going to go towards his parents' home. I thought maybe he'd be there. And when I got to the river, the bridge was gone, and there were people on the other side yelling, "Is so and so over there?" And they were trying to throw a rope across with a tire on it to get it across so that people could hold on the rope and get across the river. And that's when I woke up.
boy,
But
well, I think that's probably prophetic what you were dreaming, because look what we have, all these nuclear plants out there. We have nuclear weapons capability with the North Korea, Russia, with us. It's just a matter of time before something happens, either an accident where something is launched or
Truth Bug, could you mute yourself, please? Because you're coughing and we can hear you. I can mute you, but if you mute yourself, you can unmute yourself. Okay. I'm not used to this new board, Betsy. I'm sorry.
no. Somebody listening in and they're coughing, huh?
Yeah, well, they're
Oh
in the,
no.
and they wrote in the chat, they heard that the Vatican had moved to South America. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, no, but I wouldn't doubt it. The Nazis went there after the war, but with all this horrible things going on with priests, pedophile priests, but the church has been dark for a long, long time and involved in occult things. I mean, for hundreds of years, they have been into dark things, and that I've been predicting that many people will fall that we've looked up to. Our leaders will fall because revelations, things are going to come out now that have been covered up for a long time.
Yeah, well,
And we're
you
already
know,
seeing that.
okay, so let me get your take on this hurricane that's just come in. Because they were
Okay.
saying that it was going to be like a category 4 to 5, and now it's a
Right.
1. And then with what I just told you about the Weather Channel, the
Right.
guy's acting like he's blowing away. This wind's so strong, and then these two kids walk behind them. Their clothes aren't even blowing. What What do you think's
Right.
going on with that?
Well, I think, geoengineering we know that's possible, and it's going on all the time.
Yeah.
With the chemtrails that we've had since the 1990s, the late 1990s. And I think that's geoengineering. And I think it's possible that they can control hurricanes, And I think we too can, control it. If people come together with mass consciousness, we're that powerful. Our energy, when we think things and we come together, that energy has to go somewhere. And I think many people have been praying. Maybe we had something to do with it. I was asking people on my website that visit my website to please pray, intend, visualize the hurricane becoming, going down to a Cat 1 or 2 or something much lower. So I believe we do have that capability, and we've forgotten how powerful we are, that we're just powerful beings that can really change things. But I feel right now people are so depressed around the world. We're angry, we're depressed. I've never seen people so disconnected and angry, and all this anger, all this energy is going right into the earth. And Mother Earth feels us. We're all connected to everything. We're connected to the bees and the trees, and, we've forgotten all that. And, the time that I spent with indigenous people, I learned that, how important it is that we understand that and can reconnect with nature, because nature teaches us so many things. And I think, Mother Earth will warn us there are always warnings before huge events if we know the signs and warnings.
I agree. I agree. Do you
Yeah,
know that there's 9 storms around the planet right now?
I
9
know.
huge
I
storms.
know. Yeah, yeah.
And
Isn't
the
that
other thing is
incredible?
they aren't saying anything about this storm that's hitting Texas.
Mm.
It's mostly like they want us to focus on this hurricane.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to get worse. Things, the one thing about the oceans is they're heating up, and they're even talking about, Southern California getting huge hurricanes because the water is off the coast. They just took the temperature of San Diego, off the coast of San Diego. It was 81 degrees, and fish are dying. They can't survive in that. Usually the ocean is in the 70s or below 70, but it's been 81 degrees. That's crazy. And, I think there might be volcanoes too, actually heating the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. Well, this is my take on it. I think, well, the water temperature of the ocean is so much warmer, and that they did geoengineer Katrina, and the water was
Mm-hmm.
colder back then. Now, I think because of our planet shifting and the sun being
Right.
so much hotter, because when I'm out there on my mower, I'm telling you, the sun is so intense, it's unbearable. And I
Oh,
think that
yeah.
it has heated the ocean up, and that's part of why the fish are dying. But also, the change in the temperature of the water has thrown a monkey wrench into their steering the storm. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
water temperature caused it to stall out on them.
What's really interesting, and I don't know if you've been watching this news that came out last Thursday, the FBI suddenly raided this observatory in southern New Mexico, the solar observatory, and closed it down.
Yep.
And they won't say anything about it. Now, we're having a geomagnetic storm right now from the sun, but the storm has been pretty blank. That means no sunspots. But we are getting the geomagnetic storms, which is affecting Earth. And I always know when there's going to be big earthquakes because of these geomagnetic storms, earthquakes and storms. So, yeah, what's going on with Mexico, New Mexico? Was there some kind of alien event? Did they see a huge UFO in front of the sun? People are just speculating all kinds of things on the internet. Why there would be that shutdown? And I guess the whole perimeter, that whole area is now shut down. So it must have been pretty major, whatever it was.
Well, I'm good friends with WSO Steve Olson, and I just happened to, right before that event happened, was watching a show he did, and he was showing from the satellites that he can get into an
Mm-hmm.
eclipse of two bodies that were going in front of the sun, two like planet-like bodies that were going in front of the sun. And it was right after he started showing that was when they raided that observatory. And I think
And
that
now,
what's going on is they came across it, and they wanted that scrubbed. They wanted it off the feed. They want so, and
mm-hmm.
from what they took the post office next door and closed it down.
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
I couldn't
exactly.
understand why would they close the post office down. But I was watching another video, and that guy was talking about Rex Bear, and he was talking about that the person at the observatory tried to get that information out by mailing it,
Mm.
and so they were intercepting the mail.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's one video I know that you watched that I must have watched too, the same one that looks like some huge thing in front of the sun. And they're saying that was only the moon. That was an eclipse, And I know. So they're debunking that already.
They're
So
so
that's kind of
angry that
interesting.
people are waking up, Betsy. They are so
Hmm.
angry.
They are. They are. And it's just going to get crazier. Let me tell you, Bad Baby, it's going to get nuts. I mean, we're just seeing just a little tip of what's going to happen in the coming few years. And it's just nuts. And I want people to be prepared. I mean, if you live on the coastal areas and what's going to happen with the waves, tsunamis, hurricanes, the tornadoes are going to get even worse than we've even seen. I mean, some of these hurricanes and tornadoes are just going to be off the charts. And I just want people to be prepared. I mean, even, when we were having the wildfires in the West, in California, look what was happening on the East Coast, the huge, huge torrential rains and floods. I mean, incredible. And now, more flooding on the East Coast. I think if I lived on the East Coast, I'd sure head inland, not in tornado area, but somewhere where it's a little safer.
Well, I think
But
part of it is the Agenda 21. The West Coast, they're burning people out of their property. The East Coast and
mm-hmm,
the southern East Coast are being flooded out by storms. Because
right.
I'm telling you, Houston and Texas, how many times has Houston been underwater?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy what's going on, and FEMA, what a joke with FEMA. I don't know. They are.
I,
They say they're going to rescue us, but like Puerto Rico. What happened in Puerto Rico? It took days to get in there and help those poor people. And I don't know. It's just nuts. One person says one thing, how many deaths there were, and Trump saying another thing, and it's just all this. I think they're doing this on purpose to totally confuse us. Don't you think? That's
yes,
their plan.
yeah. They don't, the whole thing is confusion and I think
Mm-hmm.
fear, because when you're
Yeah.
afraid, you don't
Yeah.
think logically. So, and that's why I was telling you on the Weather Channel, they were showing him like he couldn't even stand there with his head down, like he was going to blow away any minute. And they're trying to act and put fear. I have to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to laugh when you see
Right.
that on my Facebook page, because those kids walking behind them, they're drinking their
Yeah.
pop
I'll
and
have
just
to
walking
see that.
along. They're
Oh
not
my
blown away and
goodness.
they're just kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, they
Yeah.
are trying to work on the fear factor. And it was weird. I knew that it was a fear factor thing because before the
Mm-hmm.
hurricane actually landed, they all had the same line. Jim Cantori kept going, it's going to be horrible, horrible, horrible. Then it'd go
Mm-hmm.
back over to the woman. She goes, oh, yes, it's going to be horrible, horrible. And all the 2 days before it even hit, every other word was horrible, horrible, horrible. It's like they're
Right.
trying to
Right.
program you. And I'm like, no, it's
Sure.
not. We're going to make it stop. And it did. It stopped.
They just want us displaced, and I think there's just a lot of mind control going on. It's been going on for a long time through the media, just everything. We're being mind controlled all the time. But to displace millions of people like they did and have them move, and look at some of these people, who knows? Their homes are probably being looted. I was reading that there's already looters out there. So it's just crazy what they're doing. Displace us all the time. Yeah.
Now, when Katrina
Confuse
went
us.
down, they had a storm
Mm-hmm.
in Tennessee where they made everybody evacuate. I can't remember which one it was, but I was doing a show that weekend, and I actually had a caller call in and say that
Mm-hmm.
they wanted it known that they were told they had to get out of their homes and that the streets are blocked off. They aren't being allowed back in their homes, and that there was National Guard soldiers that were kicking their doors in and going through their homes and taking their weapons.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
So,
It's just amazing.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't leave. I there were some people
Yeah.
that stayed, said, and then there were also people that said, okay, my family's going to evacuate, but my husband's going to stay here and guard our property. I seen that on
Mhm.
Facebook, and I was like, yeah, that's the wise thing to do, because then they
Right.
aren't going to be kicking your door in and going through your things and taking things. I just wonder,
Mhm.
how they mandatory evacuation. It's just a doorway to get into people's homes.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is. And I just feel so sorry for these people, that even if their home is it's pretty much destroyed, they usually don't get back what they need to get back to start all over again and buy another home. We saw that in Katrina, that they had these
Yeah.
makeshift places for them that were just horrible. And yeah, these people just can't start their lives again. They're, like I said, displaced. Yeah.
Well, you know what they're doing to the people in California that are being burned out? They're changing all the zoning laws and not allowing them to rebuild.
Mm. Wow.
Deborah Tavares talks about that. And then
Mm.
they're coming in, since they aren't allowed to rebuild, and they're offering them pennies on the dollar.
Wow. Well, and
Yeah.
they're taking more Native American land away, what's been going on in Utah, so they can do more drilling and get, the oil from the shale and all. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's just land is being taken away. It's being used for federal, purposes to mine. And that's what's the problem. We're taking all the minerals out of the planet. We're taking the oil, we're taking just the precious minerals. And these things have to be in the earth to help the earth balance itself. When we start removing all these things, they're in there for a reason. I mean, the bugs and everything has a reason to be here. There's this symbiotic relationship we have with everything. And we think that if we keep taking all these things out, the oils, the gas, the minerals, the rare earth minerals, that Earth is just going to be fine. But that's not true, and we're already seeing the sinkholes because we're removing the water, we're removing the oil, and we're getting these sinkholes all over the planet.
So do you think, Betsy, that the star beings are going to help us through this, or are they just going to observe?
Well, I think there's many, many species watching us, many species, and some are malevolent. Um, some have a bad agenda for us. They think of us just as maybe rats or something to experiment on. There are also the benevolent ones who are trying to help us. And some of them just feel that we made the mess on Earth, that we've caused a lot of these problems on Earth, and we have to clean up our own mess. They're waiting to see if we're really going to be able to change things on Earth. And so far, I think we're just making a big mess. I kind of see a big similarity between what's going on now in Atlantis. Supposedly Atlantis had all the modern technologies that we have today. They had the great and mighty crystal, which might have been like, nuclear power, and they turned everything inward and started destroying the inside of the planet. They were trying to kill people on the other side of the planet, other civilizations, and that started all the earthquakes and the huge volcanoes erupting and caused Atlantis to go into the ocean. It took a long time. It didn't go under just one, big explosion. It took many. So yeah, I think many of us, I think, are Atlanteans that have come back to this time. And there are those that, the light workers that want to help the earth. And then there are those who, are the ones that work for the dark side, that really don't care. They don't care. If we destroy the planet, they'll just go to another planet. That's why they're going to go to Mars. They want to start a civilization, a new a new continent, or not a new continent, but a new civilization up there, and start anew
Hmm.
up there. And they just don't care about us. They really don't.
No, I think the ones that plan on going underground aren't going to make it through.
I don't
I
think so
don't.
either. I don't want to go underground.
I don't think that underground is going to be a safe place because
No.
when the earth crust pulls loose and slips, which will cause the
Hmm.
shift, how in the
Right.
world could an underground bunker stay intact?
Yeah, it's going to be your tomb. You go
Yeah,
underground. Yeah, it's
you
going to be
know,
your tomb.
exactly. And I had a vision about that too. I had I had
Yeah.
uh, I had a dream one night where I saw all these people and they looked like Congress people because there were women in business suits and men in suits and they were all in this hallway that was square and it was dark. The light was flickering on and off, on and off. Then I saw everything shaking and then the walls cracked open and I couldn't tell you whether it was lava or water, but it was coming down this hallway towards them and they couldn't get out of each
Wow.
other's way fast enough. And the women were crawling up over on top of the men trying to get out, go. And then I woke up
Wow.
and I thought,
Wow. Isn't
they're
that
not going to
something?
make it under there.
No, no. Well, and we know that, the poles are melting. And there's also what's going on with the Earth's magnetic poles. They're saying it could flip any time. That they've seen, scientists have also seen a magnetic anomaly in the South Pacific, and it won't allow satellites to fly over the area. They say the Earth's magnetic field there is so weak that it's almost non-existent. So, there's just strange things going on with our planet right now. And the mysterious
Now,
booms, how about those that people
uh,
have been hearing
well,
worldwide?
and they're hearing the trumpet sounds in Georgia and
Hmm.
Alabama again. Very loud.
Right.
People are posting that. And
Yeah, yeah.
I really do think those trumpet sounds are the tectonic plates rubbing together because our planet's being
I
pulled.
I know. I agree with you totally that it's deep core earth movement going on. That's what we're hearing, the grinding and all. Absolutely. It's Mother Earth telling us
The last
she's
one that I
moving in a big
saw,
way.
this guy was videoing the sky and he was going, "What is that sound? It's coming from the sky. What is it?" And he had a little dog. It was like a Yorkie or something, and that dog
Hmm.
was going nuts.
Oh, I
Y-
bet. I bet.
You know, and animals sense and can feel things that we can't.
Oh, absolutely. They know. Yeah, cats and dogs are really sensitive. Well, all animals are. They feel earthquakes before they happen. There's so many stories of them because they are psychic. They are intuitive. And that's something we are, but we've just forgotten how to use it. Our ancient ancestors had to use their psychic powers, their innate sixth sense, because they would have died. They didn't know when a storm was coming. They didn't have radio and TV to warn them. And they didn't know, warring tribes. And that's how humanity survived for thousands, I think, millions of years we've been around. Although scientists don't say that or agree with that, anthropologists.
Yeah. Well, I have my question about the star beings is I feel that they are fascinated with people that have psychic ability for some reason.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you why. I have a friend in Washington State, and she's clairvoyant, and she can remote view. And
Wow.
she had gone. She when she first knew that she had talents, she wanted to enhance her remote viewing or learn more about it. And so she went to a class with her friend, and it was being taught by a retired military person, which I wouldn't have went because of the military being involved. And it wasn't Ed Dames because she can't stand him.
Oh,
But
yeah. I
anyways,
agree.
when she left there, she said her and her friend were talking about going to this restaurant, and they were on this highway on the way to the restaurant, and then they kind of like woke up, and the car was being dropped as they woke up. She said, I woke up and my car went boom, boom. That woke me up. And she said,
Wow.
what the heck? She thought she hit something, right? She went, what the heck? Did we
Right.
just run something over? And she looked at her girlfriend and she goes, where are we? And they were like past the restaurant for like an hour. And she don't remember driving past it. And then again,
Wow.
you said you lost 2 hours. They lost 2 hours of time.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah. A lot of people do. And usually through hypnosis, they find something. My mother and I were regressed through hypnosis in the 80s, early 80s, after we found out what my uncle said. And my mother said that she kept telling my father not to roll down the window, that there was something out there. She thought something was going to get us. I mean, she was frantic when I heard the original tape. I couldn't hear it until they regressed me separately. But I told a different story, that we were actually abducted by gray aliens and taken aboard. I remember seeing my mom in a tube-like structure, and she's calling to me. She couldn't see me. And my father was down below in a chair, just like he was catatonic. He was looking out. And it was like he wasn't there. He didn't know what was going on. And then I remembered that they took us back, and they actually beamed us back through the top of the car, the roof of the car. And I remember my mother and father being slumped over in the front seat, and they awakened and they got out, and they were just puzzled what was going, like nothing was there, which would explain, if we were abducted for 2 hours, there would be nothing around. The sound would have stopped, the roar, and the shaking of the car would have stopped. So that makes sense that something did happen to us. Now, I don't know, I was only 8 months old. And, you can say, well, I was too young. I wouldn't have remembered anything like that. But they say our subconscious records everything. So I feel, because of the things that have happened to me throughout my life, that there has been the abductions. And I think it's the benevolent, not the malevolent beings, but the benevolent ones. And I've never felt any fear. I've never had anything negative happen. I get spirit contact. My sister, my parents have contacted me since they passed, and I have no fear of these things, because I just know. I've always known that these are things that are normal, and even my mother believed in things like that. She believed in past lives. She remembered a past life. She could astral project. So, I grew up with that, and I'm thankful I was. I feel pretty blessed that I had a mother that believed in all those things.
Yeah. Now, do you think that they were interested in your parents, or that they wanted you for some reason? Or did you find out anything like that through this past life or through this regression?
Well, they say that if you've been abducted once, you've been abducted since childhood. And I tried to ask my parents, if they recalled anything. And my father, who believed in UFOs, wouldn't talk about the incident, which was very strange. I mean, I tried over and over to talk to him about it and ask him what he remembered. He wouldn't talk to me about it. My mother said that, that she remembered when she was younger, the feeling like she was paralyzed. And a lot of people have that feeling when they've been abducted, being paralyzed. And I've had that feeling. Have you ever had that happen too?
Yes. In fact, I do not like being confined. For some reason, I got to have my space.
Yeah. And, a lot of people are like that. They have phobias, and they can't explain what those phobias are, about doctors, about, just weird things that maybe they have to wear a certain something at night because they feel they're going to be abducted and they want to have clothes on, I don't know. I think that's really true. And I know that I've always felt that too.
Now for this coming winter, Betsy, are you seeing anything that's going to be happening this winter?
I feel that we're going to have incredible winter. I think it's going to be a tough winter. And, last year wasn't too bad, but the year before here in Idaho, we had the worst winter, I guess, within 100 years. We had floods after the snows finally melted. I mean, it kept snowing and snowing and snowing. And we had like 5 feet of snow in our backyard. Our poor dog, we had to try and make a tunnel for him to go outside. It was horrible. Oh, bad baby. You just can't imagine. It was so bad. And then when it started melting, homes were flooded and the river rose so high. They've just never seen the river rise that high. It was just horrendous. And a lot of people were, like I said, flooded. Businesses were flooded. So I think it's going to be a really bad winter. And I just want people to be prepared. I think there's going to be some really big earthquakes. I've been watching all these earthquakes along the Cascadia subduction zone right off the coast of Oregon and Washington. It goes from Northern California all the way up to Washington, and there's been a lot of earthquakes. Right off the coast of Oregon, about 4.4. I think there was a 5.3 not too long ago. So something's going on with that subduction zone, and that's one of the scariest faults in the world. San Andreas is bad, but this one is major, and it's been quiet for too long. And when it shakes, they're saying it's going to be a mega thrust earthquake, probably 9 point or higher. Yeah.
Well, when I think about California, I get an overwhelming feeling of flee, get out of there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think these people that have been burned out of their homes should not try to go back. I think that they should get out of there.
I think so too. I think they should leave California. A lot of times when there's all these things that happen in one certain place and they keep happening, the floods and the fires, it's kind of a warning that something else is going to happen. They say lightning doesn't strike in the same place, but that's not true. It does. And I've seen this happen so many times that a place gets hit by a hurricane and they think they're okay for a while, and then a huge hurricane comes along again, or a tornado hits the same place again. Yeah.
Well, when Harvey came through, I remember seeing a woman say, this is the second time I've had to rebuild my home. And she said, I don't know if I have the energy to do it a third time. And I thought, boy, after twice, I'd be gone. And then she said, I think I'll just fix it and try to sell it. Who wants to buy a house in a flood zone?
No,
don't waste your time.
No.
It's like, oh, good, I want to go to Houston and buy your house.
Well, I guess in some states they don't have to reveal if there's been a flood, do they? I think, or if there's been a death or a murder, or some states require you to say that and others don't, which is crazy.
Right, but everybody knew that Houston was underwater and has been a few times.
Right. Oh,
so if you're going to buy a house, why would you go to Houston?
Exactly. No, that's true. But why do we keep doing that? Humans just don't learn. We don't want to change. That's in our DNA. We hate change. And even though a place is horrible and we've had horrible things happen to us in a place, we refuse to leave, right? Until, most people don't.
I wonder if it's because of the fluoride and all the dumbing down of the
Hmm.
people, and the mind control. It's like we're
Right.
zombies, and they talk about
Yeah.
the zombies coming. I think we're zombies
Yeah.
already because people won't look up. They're
Yeah.
all walking around on them cell phones, texting, and just their whole
Yeah.
life is that phone.
Yeah. Well, just think, maybe an asteroid or a meteorite's headed for you, and you've got your head down, and you'll never see it coming. Right? You,
Well, maybe that's a good thing.
yeah, maybe it is a good thing. Yeah, you're right. Right.
If you're not smart enough to look up and pay attention, maybe you need to look down and just get
Hmm.
it over with.
Yeah. One thing that I wrote about, and I think a lot of people haven't read this book, and maybe you have, but about Mary Summer Rain. She wrote several books about her Native American mentor, No Eyes. And one of the books she wrote about was Phoenix Rising, and which is really interesting because all these things that were predicted, she wrote the book in 1983, and the book didn't get published until 1987. And the things that she talked about I'm just really blown away because, like I said, they're all happening. She spoke of volcanoes that were going to awaken everywhere. She said even those that have been dormant for a long time. She said the Great Phoenix is going to rise up again, just like it did in old times. He is forming for years, and he has now been freed from inside the earth and is free to fly. She talked about the big tearing in California. She's talking about the fault when she said tearing. She said that earthquakes will grow bigger and bigger. She talked about fierce winds, which we've had, and I talked about that too, tornadoes, increasing massive flooding and droughts. And she said the wind will come up in quick gusts. And we've seen these weird winds that come up. And actually, a lot of planes, lighter planes have been pulled down and crashed because of these strange
Mm-hmm.
winds. She said that when the water under the earth goes dry, earth falls into the place where the water was. So this is the sinkholes. And what's going on with the fracking and what we're doing to remove everything, which I was just talking about. She talked about the entire atmosphere is going to be tinged kind of green. She said winter and summer seasons would be all mixed up, hot and then cold, rapid temperature changes. She talked about freak accidents with trains, planes, buses. We've seen that, cars, boats, bridges. And she said the Earth Watchers are not going to help us because they want us to learn how careless we have been. In fact, No Eyes called people dumb. She said we're lazy. People have taken the lazy path, and people are just dumb. That's all, she said, and I think that's very true. Like you said, we've been dumbed down. And she
Mm-hmm.
talked about it then. That was back in the 80s.
And
So,
it's weird because there's so many strange things the way people are acting, like they get
oh my
angry
gosh.
for no reason at
Hmm.
all. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
On the news a few weeks ago up here in Detroit, there was a family that had their granddaughter at the park for her birthday party, and there was a guy on
Uh-huh.
the park bench shooting drugs. So the grandfather walked over and said, "Please don't do that in front of the children. Would you please leave?" This guy got up and stabbed him to death in front of all them children.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So it's like, I
Wow.
mean, there's no compassion for humanity or something anymore.
Mm-mm. No, there isn't. And a lot of these movies that even TV series and movies are so violent. Children are getting dosed with it all the time, and they have become unemotional, I guess. They're just there's nothing there. They don't understand, how precious life is. And I think we've just got to get away from all that. And I know people are saying, well, I can't live without my cell phone. We did it for how long?
Yeah. Yeah,
When you think about it,
you can't
we
find a
did.
payphone daughters. They took
No,
all the payphones out.
my husband and I were talking about it. We watched a movie the other night, and it showed a payphone. We're going, I don't think so. There isn't any left. They're now they're antiques now. Oh my gosh!
Exactly. And
You know what I watched? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
honey.
I was going to tell you. I watched this video, and it was hilarious. This mother brought in this phone, a regular rotary phone that we used
I
to
saw
use,
that.
and
Told them
see
to
it?
dial it,
And
and they couldn't figure it out.
they couldn't figure it out. They left the receiver on the the whole thing, and then they dial, and they didn't realize you have to pick up the receiver.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my gosh, they couldn't figure it out.
And at the end,
Wow.
the one girl goes, get out of here, I've got this now. I figured it out.
Yeah.
And she goes over, she dialed it right, but it was hung up. She dialed it, then she picked it up and goes, no, that ain't it.
No,
It makes you feel old, don't it?
It does. It just blew me away that, what's happening to kids nowadays and the things that they don't know and aren't being taught. I think it's just a travesty what's going on with schools and what kids don't know. And, and spirituality is just, we used to, remember when we used to, say the Pledge of Allegiance in school, we'd,
Yeah.
all these things have just been taken away. And
respect for our country, respect for, the school teachers. I mean, I've seen videos where kids are wanting to beat their teacher up, I mean, like that would never happen when I was back in school.
No, nothing like that. I mean, children now have to be frightened all the time to go to school that somebody's going to shoot them. Some shooter is going to come in there and just, go crazy. And
which I think is totally ridiculous. I mean, it's so easy to fix that problem. All you have to do is lock the school doors and put an intercom for someone to come in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have an adopted daughter here at my house right now, and she's going to GED school, and that's how they work that school. You go up to the door and you push the buzzer, and they come out and intercom to see who it is trying to get in the school. And she said this is for their safety. So I mean, why can't all schools just do that? You have to check in through the office. Press the buzzer. We'll see who you are. You just can't la-di-da in with whatever and start killing people. But I think it's designed to do that, and I think it's to instill fear. It's just the problem can be solved. They don't want to solve it.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
Also, we're being separated all the time. And when you think about flying, it used to be something fun. I mean, there was leg room. You were treated nice. You were treated like royalty on flights. They wanted you on there. They served you food. They were amazing. They dressed. I don't know if you ever flew on Boeing, not Boeing, but Braniff Airlines. They dressed. The airline attendants wore great outfits. You were treated incredibly nice, and the food was served. And now look, we're treated like cattle.
Yeah.
We have to go through TSA. We're treated like cattle. They treat us like we're criminals. We can't greet our families when they get off the plane. Look what's
after
happened
9/11. After 9/11, the whole world changed.
It did. Yeah.
Our freedoms were taken away. Our liberties were taken away, and we have lost more and more of our life since then. Yeah. I mean, when those towers came down, not only did those people die, but I think America pretty much lost America.
I agree with you. Totally agree with you that, and still our rights are being taken away, and we don't do anything about it. You know, we can do a lot more than what we're doing. And I'm not saying, you know, any violence. I'm talking about, you know, we can get out there. We can protest. We can, you know, talk to our senators, talk to our governors, you know, talk to all these Congress people, you know, or vote them out. If they're not doing anything, let's get them out of, you know, out of there. Let's
Well,
dump
I
them,
don't
you
believe
know,
in the
enough's
voting
enough.
process. I think it's rigged. So, you know,
Oh, yeah.
because see, I've interviewed Al Cuppet before. He's a retired Joint Chief of Staff of the Pentagon. And I
Mm-hmm.
asked him why Congress wasn't doing some things about what's going on. And he said,
Yeah.
because they're part of it. He said they're all part of it. And he said, and if they aren't part of it, he said they get rigged. And I said, what do you mean they get rigged? He said, well, they drug them and then they put them in bed with the child and film it and tell them you'll do what you're told or we'll let this out and you'll never have a career again. So they've got
Yeah.
control. That's the
Mm-hmm.
problem. They have the control. Just like I had a friend on Facebook that posted about the people being sick on the planes. Remember that happened a little bit
All
back?
right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. Well, she
Yeah.
posted about it and they put her in Facebook jail. And she said, why in the world would
Oh,
they put me in Facebook jail over the news that's going on about these planes? I said, because they're trying to keep that hush hush. And I said, and I'm going to tell you right now, Sue, why they're doing that. I said, they're doing that because there's something real fishy. It isn't the flu. It's something they put there that they want to spread.
mm-hmm.
Well, wouldn't you know, I saw a video the other day and there was a doctor on one of them planes and he was examining some of these people that were sick and he came right out and said he didn't feel it was the flu. He said they had the symptoms of Ebola. And if you
Oh,
remember,
dear. Yeah.
not too
Yeah.
long ago, there was that CEO from from the CDC that disappeared, and then they found him dead, and they made it out like, oh, we don't know why he would kill himself, but he was shot in the chest or something like that and thrown off a bridge. I mean, uh, he was murdered, if you ask me. And I think the reason
Mm-hmm.
he was murdered is because he knew what they were going to do and he said, "No, you're not I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to let it get out." And they snuffed him.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I think that's been going on for a long time. John Lear, who was on Coast to Coast with Art Bell before he passed, he talked about he was a retired captain for over he had over 1,900 hours of flight time. No, 19,000 hours of flight time, and his father was the inventor of the Lear jet. But he told Art Bell that he said that I think he said close to 18 different species, yeah, alien species. And some of them are monitoring Earth. Some are good, some are hostile, some are indifferent. He found out that we are being experimented on, and
Hmm.
some of them call us containers, which is kind of interesting. Maybe because we die and then we jump into another body, you know, reincarnate. But he said that the Greys are cybernetic organisms, glorified robots, if you will, and who are here. They're working for reptilians and others. There's some that are good. The reptilians, not all of them are bad, but most of them are. He said that we've been experimented on and corrected 65 times. He said that he said since 1938, we've lost over 200 aircraft due to UFO hostilities, and thousands of soldiers in all kinds of different actions with the aliens have been killed. Yeah, so there's just been a lot of things. He said even humans have been mutilated. They tried to make it look like it was aliens. And we know, you know, the cattle mutilations, I investigated those for several years during the late 70s and early 80s. And I'll tell you, it's pretty weird stuff that's going on with those cattle mutilations, and they're still going on.
Wow. Well, you know, from the targeted individual community, they have cried out to Congress and the Oversight Committee for help to uh, do something about the targeting that's going on
Mhm.
with them, and it falls on deaf ear. And my own thoughts on that, and this is my opinion, is the reason it falls on deaf ears because this program is completely organized by through government agencies, and they are allowing this experimentation that is being done because
Mhm.
a lot of these targets have different things done to them, and I think it's
Right.
all a part of an experimental progress. And I do know that the ETs have made deals with the governments around the world, and I think it's in exchange for technology, and that they do things to the human beings, and they just look the other way because they want this technology. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, supposedly Dulce, New Mexico, there is an underground base, and that's where the reptilians are. And they've abducted humans to do experiments on them. And people have seen it. Phil Snyder was one of them, and Thomas Costello talked about this place. And if they made that up, I mean, it's an incredible story. I don't think so. And and other
Hmm.
people have talked about Dulce, New Mexico. But another thing which is really interesting, Betty, Andreas, and Luca, and her husband Bob Luca, were abducted many times by the Greys, and also there were the elders involved, and she always thought they were angelic. She never had a bad experience. It was frightening at times, but she said what was really strange is that she was shown what was called a museum of time with different versions of humans throughout history in these glass-like structures, containers. Isn't that's pretty bizarre? If they're benevolent, why are they putting us in a museum type thing, a
Right.
zoo, a human
Right,
zoo?
that was my thought, like a zoo, like where they can come and
Mhm.
go, look at this is what the humans look like, you know.
Right.
Uh, that's eerie, an eerie thought.
It is. It is an eerie thought, and in my book, I also write about. A lot of people don't know that during Vietnam War that we were actually fired on. Our boats were fired on by UFOs. We usually were firing on them first, and then they'd fire back. But they actually killed many of our military, which is, it's not, you don't hear that too often, people talking about that. I have several stories in there and what happened. And also, they said that there were strange lights. They found this PCF-12 boat. There were victims on there, and two survived the UFO attack, and they talked about how bizarre it was that they thought it was enemy at first. But of course, they said that the Viet Cong didn't have helicopters at that time when this whole carnage came down. I mean, there's just bizarre things that were going on. The South China Sea, even the Australian Navy talked about UFOs and being attacked. So there was something going on back then.
Well,
And like I said, I don't know.
my
Yeah, go
thoughts on
ahead.
the California fires are that they when they chemtrailed out there, because it
Yeah,
happens here. I've lost many trees in my yard, and
yes.
I do believe it's from the chemtrails. You know, because
I'm
certain
glad you
trees don't
brought that up.
rise. Yes, and there's aluminum in the chemtrails, and I think the aluminum helps kill the tree, and it gets in the tree, and I think it makes the tree like a matchstick. And I think that
I
they had chemtrailed California so badly that they turned all the forestry and the wildlife and that into like a big matchbox. And then a lot of people reported they saw a large flash in the sky before these
hmm,
fires started. And I think that the satellite microwave weaponry is what started these fires, and it was all engineered to burn these people out of their homes so
yeah,
that they could
yeah.
land grab and Agenda 21. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree with you totally. I've always thought that we're on the same page, Bad Baby. Absolutely. I know that's what they've been doing, and that's what's causing all these trees. And I think that's what's causing a lot of the things with our waters too. This red algae that's forming. But here in Idaho, our poor trees are dying. You see them rust-colored. And now the beetles are attacking them because they are so weak, that they can't fight back. And we just have, our forests are dying. And just think what that's doing all over the world. I'm sure it's happening to the forests, the rainforests. And what is it doing to us, with all that aluminum in it? I think that's, yeah.
Now, have you
It's horrible.
seen what the people in Florida are saying about not being able to breathe?
No. No.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, they're saying it's the red tide, because it's toxic to breathe, but they're also having a green tide down there too. And it's funny because my niece, she's always got to prove me wrong, so she puts a video up. She lives down there. She puts a video up. We're out here on the ocean, people. Beautiful day. Don't believe the lies about red tide. Come to Florida. Then 2 days later, she posted, I don't feel good. Do you think it's the red tide?
Oh, no. Oh.
And then she said, my friend is in the hospital right now with respiratory problems, can't breathe. Duh.
Oh.
You were just out on the ocean 2 days ago.
Yeah, all those sea creatures. And,
did you see that video I put up on Facebook where there were just miles of dead sea life on the ocean?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And that poor woman screaming out, we have to do something. Now, do you see any of that on the news? No.
No, of course not. Of course not. They're not showing any of that. And, just a couple of years ago, after Fukushima, all these starfish along the West Coast were dying. They were turning into mush. They would get them, they just fall apart. They were dying in mass. Yeah.
Well, I think that had to do with the radiation that they're dumping into the ocean from Fukushima.
Sure.
I mean, and they're saying, oh, we're okay over here on the West Coast, because I think they want people going in those oceans and getting sick from the radiation.
Sure, I think so too. Absolutely. Yeah.
I interviewed Dr. Betty Martini on aspartame and how they're poisoning us through aspartame. And she, talks about how women that are pregnant lose their babies because of drinking diet pop, because the aspartame, causes you to have a miscarriage that poisons the fetus. Or if you don't have a miscarriage, this is what she says, this is why a lot of the babies are being born autistic and have mental problems, because they've been poisoned in the womb. So, she pretty much tells pregnant women when she sees them, don't drink that, it's bad for your baby, and she gives them all the documentation. Now, she worked with Dr. Robert Bralick. Do you know he was murdered for the work that they found about what aspartame does to you?
There's been a lot of scientists murdered.
Yes. Yep.
They died under mysterious
So anyways, let me get to the point here.
Wow.
She goes to this gynecologist's office and tries to work with this gynecologist to warn these pregnant mothers not to drink diet pop. And she's got all her documentation, and she's trying to show him what it does to the fetus and this and that. And do you know what this man said to her? I don't care.
What?
Mind your own business. One less soul on this planet to eat my food or breathe my air.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. I'm just blown away.
Well, that tells you the cabal is within the system, isn't it?
It is. The cabal.
I sure wouldn't
everywhere.
want him delivering my baby.
No, mine either. No. What do you think of hybrids? You think they exist, alien-human hybrids?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because
of
all the women that have been abducted and had their and felt and said that they had their eggs harvested. So yes, I do. I think they experiment on us left and right. And I
Hmm.
believe that women have conceived and the child has been taken from them. From I've heard of things like that happening too.
Have you ever watched that YouTube video, that interview with Lisa from Canada? She is uh, French speaking, so the interpreter asked what was going on. He knows her story. Did you ever see that about
No,
her
I haven't
and
seen
how
that
she
one.
was? Oh, it's so weird. Her name is Lisa. She's close to 6 foot tall. She's blonde, strange fey blue eyes. And she said that when her mother was pregnant, she had this experience where these aliens came right through her bedroom. And she wasn't feeling too good, and she told them to go away. And one said, "Is she ready?" And the other one said, "Yes, she's ready." And she didn't know what that meant. She kept asking them, "What does that mean?" And then they disappeared. They went right through the wall and vanished. And of course, she had a baby. 9 months later, she followed the doctor, with his taking vitamins and everything, and everything seemed to be fine. She was giving birth, and she had a son. And a few minutes later, the nurse came running for the doctor and said, "There's another baby." He said, "That's impossible. It's impossible." And she said, "That's when she was born. She was born." And I guess that she's known that, she is very intuitive. And she just has all these strange things that happen. She just knows things. But her mother has the Rho negative blood, and she has the O negative blood. And many people who claim to be abductees have this O negative blood, which is a little bit weird because I guess if you get pregnant and you have a baby and you have this blood, the baby might have problems. So you have to do something, I guess, either have like a transfusion or something, because the blood is not compatible with, the baby, and there will be problems. But she said what was really weird is that her mother also had another experience with aliens, but this was human-looking aliens, and they took her to this place. I guess they had red hair, and they had some kind of suits on. They had what looked like the emblem or the sign of a medical person with the serpent on there. And they took her to this place where all these medicines, she thought it was all medicine, and they told her that humans were not supposed to be sick, and that they had the cure for everything that is wrong, all our ills, all our diseases, but they weren't going to give it to us. And I thought, wow, that's bad. Why not? And
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a
What you
fascinating
just
story.
described, Betsy, just gave me the chills because my
Did it?
ex-husband was a redhead, and my first child
Wow.
had a blood problem, and they had to give him
Ah,
transfusion, and they told him our blood wasn't compatible, mine and his.
wow. So do you have O negative
I don't
blood?
think so. I don't remember.
Oh,
Remember,
wow. You
what
should
I
find
told you, I
out.
haven't been to the doctor in how long? I don't
Right.
remember whether I have O or not, but
Wow.
it was weird because he stayed in the hospital for a week after me because of this problem. They said that his blood, my blood was not compatible.
Wow. Wow. That'd be interesting to find out if you do have the negative blood. Yeah,
Well,
wow.
and
That's,
and I've had
yeah,
so
that's
many strange things happen to me, but I don't, I don't remember ever being abducted. I don't recall that. But the night of the tsunami in Japan, I did have an outer body experience, and I flew down the hallway. I felt like I was flying, and then I hit the end of the hall and fell, and there was like a shadow man standing there. He hit the wall with me, and he got up and said, "F this, I'm out of here." And he went down my first set of stairs and through the wall. And I went,
Oh my
"What the
goodness.
heck's going on?" And I looked around, and I looked down the hallway, and I could see the silver cord, and I could see myself laying in the
Wow.
bed. And I went, "I'm out of
Wow.
my body." And then shoo, I flew back, and I went back in my body, and the bed like jolted. And I woke up, and I went, "What in the world just happened to me?" And then I didn't want to go back to sleep because I was afraid. And I turned the TV on, and the tsunami was hitting Japan.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And I
Wow.
thought, wow, was there a connection there or what? But
Yeah,
I
I would
knew
say.
something that, whatever that was, that shadow man, he had taken me out of my body and was trying to take me somewhere.
Oh, it sounds like it. Yeah, you've probably had a lot of experiences. Maybe you
That was
don't
the
remember
first time
all of
I
them.
actually remembered or experienced it, and I was like, whoa. But
Mm.
when my husband died, he had told me that he was going to stay in this house and watch over me. And I have contact with him, and I have seen where he has protected me. I have actual physical stories where he had protected me. And when I slammed against that wall, I knew it was him stopping this thing.
Wow. Wow.
Bad baby.
Hmm.
Can you hear
Yes.
me?
That's amazing.
This is
Yes.
Huggy
Uh,
Bear. Hi.
Hi,
I,
Huggy.
if
Do
I
you have a question
can
for Betsy?
I actually have a comment and see what she thinks about it. But you guys are right on what's happened to me. When I
Sure,
was
go ahead.
when I was I'm 61. When I was 6 weeks old, my grandparents raised me from birth. They had to get me back off of a military base. I was taken there and left there. They got me off. Well, since I've researched the site's not much on it. The base is long closed years ago, but it was an international CIA and MI 1 through 9 kind of thing. And there's super soldiers who have spoken about it. And I have spoken with one myself, Duncan Opinion, spoken times. Okay, so I get up to my teens, okay, and this is where things went wild. Both my grandparents were killed in strange accidents. My aunt and I, their youngest daughter, we could not investigate state level and up and down. I mean, covered up both ways. Immediately thereafter, I'm laying up in my bed. I just got in bed. I was not asleep. And I heard this loud noise come into my body. I mean, deafening. It was that loud. It's like swirling in my chest and head, and mostly in my chest. Major, like a whirlwind hurricane going on in my chest. I was frozen. I could not move, and there was something came into my room, and I can't tell you what it looked like, but it was shaped like a human, but taller. And it put its arms underneath my back and lifted me up out of my body and away from the bed and went to start to carry me away. And whatever was going on, this energy was preventing me from yelling because I wanted to scream, you know. And I fought from inside and I screamed. About a year and a half later, same thing, except this time I'm laying on my stomach and I just laid in bed and it put its hands on my shoulders, turned me over, picked me up, and went to carry me away. I let out a scream. It put me back in my body. In between, I had a lot of strange, really bad, surreal dreams. And this is when there was moments where I'm pretty sure they were testing the AI system on me with satellites over me. Yeah, it's just going back retrospectively because I'm targeted now, and I'm adamant it's the same ones. Adamant. Uh, so they were in the fourth dimension. You know, when they took me out of body, I was like in a dream world, and I was awake, and they put me back in. And that's I have looked back on that and realized that they took me out, and that was what I would call the soul, okay? But inside me was a spirit. And you get what I'm saying? In other words, we're spiritual beings, and I feel like we're trapped, literally. And they came back. My husband, strange things happened all my life. I was held back constantly. I'd get the best jobs around, and there'd just be a Truman moment all the time with someone who just, everybody would like me. I'd be on a job 3 days, let's say, and they would want to get rid. Somebody would not like me and want me to go. Bosses would be like beside themselves because and I look back and it was all Truman Show moments, constantly. There's an energy which I believe is the AI Skynet. I think that's their soulless conscious awareness in the quantum kind of thing, and it's back, and it just went out of its way to charge after me. I can't make that up. But anyway, that's what I'm targeted, and I'm adamant. There's a AI Skynet kind of thing, and this technology is ancient and it's off the charts. So I guess I just wanted to make that comment that somehow I believe our targeting is alien, and what I think it is, I think it's the Anunnaki, and that's who the Nazis are as well. Because torture goes way back thousands of years ago in the early Book of the Dead, the early Stone Freemasons. And if you look at Rothschild, I looked into that. That means son of Ra.
Well, you had come in a little bit later than when we were talking earlier, and I had told Betsy that I am connected to the targeted community, the targeted individuals, and that I felt that the reason government turns deaf ear on our pleas for help is because they've cut a deal with them to experiment on us, and I do believe this is experimental. What are your thoughts on that, Betsy?
Yeah, we know what the military and the government has done for years. They've been playing, different games with us and experimenting on us with MK Ultra and Project Monarch, and who knows? I don't know if you ever read the book Transformation of America, where Kathy O'Brien was taken as a child and gone through all this mind control, and Bush was involved, not the younger Bush, but HW, and actually Hillary was involved, and Bill Clinton. They're not the people you think they are. And
her father sold them. Her father sold her. She lived 2 hours from where I live.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, she's 2 hours above where I live in Michigan.
I wish people would know more about this story and what happened to her and how horrible what she went through. I mean,
actually, it was Ford.
Torture. Yeah.
It was Ford. He wasn't the president then. He was a congressman, and he was at the same lodge, Masonic lodge, as her father. And he wanted Kathy, and so they cut a deal because he abused all the children. He sexually abused all the children. And so they said, if you give Kathy up, we'll make sure you never get in trouble and you have free reign to do what you want.
Isn't that horrible? Just.
Yes.
It's just mind-blowing. And Dick Cheney was a part of that, too. These are evil people. And, I don't care what anybody says. They're not the people you think they are. They are really wolves in sheep's clothing. And people have to wake up. They are dark, dark people, and they've done some horrendous things. I think they had a part in 9/11. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I have had visions of it. And there's just many, many dark people out there.
Well, Huggy, the girl that was just on here, her husband was actually, I feel, murdered by these monsters. And they kept his body alive and experimented on him. And when she tried to do something about it, and exposed them, they came after her and targeted her. So yeah, her targeting is very heavy, just like mine. And I think that I don't know, but I speculate that a lot of the women that are widows, there is something about us, like I have telepathic communication. Look what Huggy just described that she just experienced.
Right.
So I'm
Oh my
wondering
gosh,
if
yeah.
our husbands were taken out so that they would isolate us and have access to try to continue with whatever they're doing to us.
Yeah, I was psychic growing up, and I was told that I hadn't tapped into it yet by my paternal grandmother, and that's not too long right after that's when it all started. But they when I was in, I've had like bad baby set. I've done the black shadow people. I had one at the foot of my bed when it was all getting started, and this is like a virtual reality kind of thing. They can it's all synchronized. It's like a matrix,
Yep.
and I see it. I see through it as well. And I believe it's CERN is involved in D wave, dimensional waves, and what have you. They have done spinning holograms. Oh, geez, the Black Shadow guy came through my living room again. Um, and I've done some
And
research
I
and found
picked
that.
up a black shadow guy on my security camera. I had a security camera that was infrared that I had a DVR it recorded on. So I would come home and check that, and I actually saw this black shadow guy
Yeah.
come out from behind my pine tree. And the thing that was odd about it was he had no feet. It was like he had uh, a hood on and a cape, and his shoulders were going side to side like he was walking, but you couldn't see his feet.
Wow. Wow. And you've probably heard about the black-eyed children. Who knows what the heck those things are. I mean, we've heard about the men in black, but the black-eyed children that show up at doors, and they're like robots, and they say the same thing, let us in. And people, supposedly, one person that did let them in had a lot of bad luck, and a lot of bad things happen. But I don't know
Hmm.
what these black-eyed children are. Are they alien? Are they smell horrible, I guess, and they
Yeah.
wear weird clothes. You've probably heard all these stories from David
Well, there
Weather.
was a
They've
there was
written
a
about
young
them.
man over here in the sand dunes in Lake Michigan. Uh, Towards the end of the season, you can go over there and camp, but there's hardly nobody that does because the wind off the lake and the cold, only certain people do. And this young man was a student in the college, and he went there at an off season, end of October, beginning of November, was going to camp and hike up and down the Lake Michigan sand dunes. And he was approached in the bathroom after because you do have to go and register with the rangers, right? So he was registering that he would be out here on this certain trail, and he was going to be camping, and then he went into the restroom and the black-eyed children came in.
Oh my
And
goodness.
he thought they were creepy because they were standing in the back of the restroom staring at him and saying, please help us, sir. Can we come with you? Can we come with you? And he said, no, leave me alone. And he went to his car. Then they came up to his car, knocked on the window and said, we let us in, let us in. And he goes, no, leave me alone. And he backed out and he left. Well, you know that when he walked down the trail, one was coming the other way, and he just walked past them and went to his tent. His story is up on YouTube. I'll try to send it to you, Betsy. But he
Oh
was
yeah, please.
terrorized all night.
Oh.
They were walking around outside his tent and going, let us in. And see, they must not be able to come in unless you let them in, because they kept
Right.
asking him to let us in. And how easy is it to unzip a tent and come in? And he just kept saying,
Oh yeah.
no, go away, leave me alone. And he was so terrified the next morning. He got up, he left his tent, his everything there, and he just ran to his vehicle and got out of there.
Oh, I don't blame him, not one bit. These things are whatever they are. Who knows if there's some kind of experimental alien type creature, or who knows? It's just so weird that You know, they're children, but they have total black eyes. They have no whites in their eyes like humans. You know, this sclera that we have in our eyes, you know, the white part. So what in the world?
I have no
It's
idea,
like
but I'll tell you what, I don't want to ever see them.
I don't either. I don't think they have souls. I think they're soulless.
You know what I think? I think that they have to feed off your energy. That
Right.
if you allow
Yeah.
them in, because the one lady, when I was listening to Coast one night, they were talking about black children, and there was a woman that came out of the party store, and her child had left this black-eyed children in the car. When she got in, she
The
said, "Who
car.
is this?"
Yeah.
Right, and that child got very ill after that. I think that
Yeah.
when you invite them in, that they suck your energy, your life force energy out of your body. And that's what they were doing to her child until she threw him out. But he was sick all the time. And I think that he was sick because they were draining him. That's what I think.
Hmm. Yeah, they exist. They really do. Too many people have seen them or encountered them. Yeah, I don't want
Well,
to
you know,
encounter them.
and
Thank you.
keep that in mind when something doesn't feel right, because your gut feeling always is the first
Mm,
indication, you know. So when
right,
something doesn't
right.
feel right, and you know, or if someone's trying to pressure you into making a split decision, you know, and you
Yeah.
aren't sure and you don't feel right, don't say yes. Just say no and, you know, stand your ground, because when you say
Hmm.
yes, you're inviting this into your realm, aren't you,
Oh,
Betsy?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Bad baby, I don't know if I can bug out about now, but my legs really and hips really starting to bother me. Would you mind if I leave the
No,
show a
no,
little
I
bit
told you if you
earlier
started
tonight?
not feeling good, that'd be
Oh,
fine.
thank you.
You know
Thanks.
what?
I
Before you
appreciate it.
leave, why don't you just tell everybody how we can get your books, and
Okay.
if they need a private reading or something, how to contact you?
Oh, great. My website is BetsyLewis.com, and Betsy's a little bit different. It's spelled a little bit different with an extra E in it. It's BETSEY, and Lewis is LEWIS. And I have an Earth News blog that I put everything weird going on. Just UFOs, if the sun is acting up, if we've had volcanoes going off, UFO reports, mysterious booms heard all around the world, and I get a lot of different premonitions about things, and anything that I feel, I'll let you know on there. So be sure and check that out. I do readings still. I do an hour reading, and that involves 13-page astrology chart. I do a really individual astrology chart, and I use also tarot cards. They're Native American tarot cards, and I'll tell you, the messages I get are always accurate. They're just amazing. So be sure and check out my website. I've got some articles on there about reptilians and earth changes, how to tell earthquakes, and there's just a lot of great information. So be sure and check it out. And I'll be on some other talk shows. I'm going to be in, well, I'm not going to be there, Albuquerque. I'm going to be at the Stargate to the Cosmos, which is in Albuquerque on October 26th on Skype. And I'm going to be with a panel discussion at 1:30, and at 7 o'clock at night Mountain Time, I'm going to be talking for 55 minutes. So you'll get to see me on Skype, see what I look like. So be sure and tune in for that. You can go to my website and just click on events. So, Bad Baby, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you. It's just,
Oh, we
I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed talking to you.
Well, we'll have you come back, and you know, we'll send you a lot of positive energy and light, and hope that you're feeling better. I'm really sorry that you're in so much pain. Wish I could take
Oh,
it
me
from you.
too. Yeah, I had two
Well, we can
surgeries on the
relate.
one hip. Yeah. Well,
Well,
I hope you feel better too. And thank you again, and blessings to all.
Thank you, Betsy, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds great. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. I know you're still there with me, Huggy. Do you want to just sit and chit-chat for a little bit?
Yeah, it's up to you. If you don't feel like it, it's okay. And if you do, it's okay.
Oh, I can hang out for a few more minutes.
Okay.
You know, a long time ago, I had mentioned that I felt that our targeting was ET based, and boy, boy, did I get jumped on and blah blah blah.
I
But
know.
the more that we see what's happening on our planet, you can't deny that there is experimentation going on. I don't know whether the ETs are doing it or whether they're doing it. I mean, the cabal, but regardless, there's no doubt that targeted individuals are being experimented on. And my confirming it is when I was going to the doctors, and all of a sudden, after my husband died and my targeting got horrendous, they quit taking 2 tubes of blood and they started taking 6 tubes of blood from me. And I said, "Why are you taking so much blood for a cholesterol test?" And they said, "Well, we got to take a few extras in case one gets broke." But no, they were, that's why they take two. One in case one gets broke, not 6. And I do think that the other 4 were being sent somewhere. And I think the reason they were being sent out is because they wanted to know what the microwave weapons were doing to my blood. Have you
I've
have you
had
ever experienced anything like that, Huggy?
I've had a I've had a lot. Have you ever heard of the book Project Soul Catcher by Dr. Robert Duncan?
Yes.
I grabbed that book. I ordered it when I was down in Florida, and the targeting really took another upbeat for the worse. And I mean, I was being chased down by drones, all from small to fairly large. One even came all the way down in a field. I mean, and these guys were laughing at me and saying, "Smile for the satellite boys," while they were humping in a sexual manner behind my back. Um, you know, it's been awful. It's been really bad. I was standing in a grocery store line, and there was a lady with a little boy, and they jumped my consciousness with the little boy and put him in my mind for a split moment. I was reading Dr. Duncan's book at that time, and he wrote about mind swapping as well as mind hiding. And everything that I was reading, they were doing to me. It was heinous. It was horrible. Um, this goes on in neighborhoods. From it didn't just happen in Florida. And by the time I got to North Carolina, with my dog and my cats were killed. Straight down in through to the house, and it was horrible. It was really sad. And I got to Florida, and it really took another turn. This is where they surrounded me with SUVs, ran me off the road. Then they came at me with what looked like a handheld laser gun of some type and hit me straight in the heart from behind. They tried to tell attorneys that I quick went to and a detective that I escaped from a nut house. Thank God they knew better. And it seemed like everywhere I went, there were detectives that had my back. I didn't look for them, other than by the time I got to Florida. I had a sheriff told me that, he said, "Hon, you have drones on you." And he was a country sheriff. He was a tough guy. I don't think he would have made that up.
Well, what they were doing were reading your thoughts, and people go, "Oh, they can't read your thoughts." But when I was doing shows with Chris from Freedom Fighters for America, we actually came across a patent and where they can read your thoughts, and also we came across a law that allows them to read your thoughts. So why would there be a law on the books about thought reading?
Are you familiar? Yeah, I'm adamant it's the Anunnaki, Nibiru. I mean, 2 and 2. It's 4 to me. That's the elephant in our room. I think if a lot of TIs understood that, they might reconsider. And then I've researched them. I still am. And there's just too much evidence. They came here. They're considered the watchers, the fallen ones, the fallen watchers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's too much evidence. They came to South Africa for gold, and they enslaved us. And I'm just looking at photos of ancient reliefs, stone reliefs. You can't debate that in all the Sumerian tablets. You just
Yeah.
can't.
Well, and when they closed the observatory down there in Mexico, and then they also closed down the post office. From what I found out is that the observatory had recorded something they didn't want us to see, and somebody had tried to get it out to the public through the mail. That's why they shut the post office down, because they wanted to intercept that information. When they did that, that just, if you've been following Steve, Steve from WSO had just posted a few days before that some video footage of 2 large objects that were around and in front of our sun. And then the next day they closed that observatory down. Also, they closed down, I think it was 6 webcams. You know how they could access those webcams and show footage of the orbs and that? 6 of them were shut down right at the same time. So obviously something's going on up there that they don't want us to know about or see. And they're afraid that people like Steve and people that have been putting up these videos showing this stuff. So my insight, I mean, the way I have been feeling is, I always get premonitions just like Betsy does. I have been feeling something big within the next, I'd say 6 to 8 weeks is going to happen. I just got this overwhelming, awful gut feeling that something awful is going to happen in these next few weeks.
Same here. I've been
And
feeling it for several days.
I've been feeling it for a couple weeks now. And when they closed that observatory down, I went, whoa, they're hiding stuff now. And then the fact that we have all these tropical storms that are all going on at the same time, there's 9 tropical storms that are hitting all around the world right now. Did you know that?
No, I did not. And remember, they can do that. They can do that. And I thought about that hurricane, it's been on the Weather Channel 24/7 for several days now, down there in, what's that, North Carolina, South Carolina. And it's a gut feeling I have that that's, man-made. And I think it's to divert attention away from the
Well, the
sky.
thing about the hurricane is they're focusing on that and making everybody focus on that, and it's fear, 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 fear. But there's also a huge tropical storm that's hitting Texas and Louisiana right now. They just didn't name it, they said. And, excuse me, they're talking about major flooding. They're talking 18 to 20 inches of rain. It just seems like they're ignoring the one. I mean, they barely talk about it on the morning show. Al Roker mentioned it, but this is the thing about the hurricane. I just posted on my Facebook page. There was a woman that videoed the Weather Channel, and she's going, look at this guy. He's spreading his legs. He's ducking his head down. He's acting like he's going to blow away any minute. He's fighting the forces of this high wind. And they didn't realize it, but 2 kids walk by in the background, and they're not even being blown at all. They're walking by drinking their pop like. So it was acting, and I kind of figured that the Weather Channel was trumping it up because before it hit landfall, they were all just saying the same thing. It's going to be horrible, horrible, horrible. John Canteri, oh, it's going to be horrible, horrible, horrible. And that's all they kept saying. And I says, oh my God, they're trying to pump into everybody's head the fear mongering.
because then it wasn't all that. It did flood in New Bern, but they're very, very low. Table, the land table is low, so, but, and that would be expected, but, for the most part, I think a lot of people got put out of their way, and you're right. I think it was all pouring, just fear, fear, fear.
Yeah. Well,
There's a couple
my
things.
thoughts are they're burning out the people out of their homes in California, and they're flooding out the people in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, and now they're working on flooding out the people on the East Coast. So, anyone that's along the coastline, they're using weather warfare on these people, and it's to destroy their property and drive them out, and I had listened to Deborah Tavares do a seminar, and she was talking about how they have changed because she's into the building business. The people in California that are going to try to rebuild, they've changed the zoning laws, and they're making it where they can't rebuild. They're stopping these people from rebuilding their homes that have been burned out by changing the zoning laws. And then they're coming in and saying, well, since you can't build here, well, they're giving them, I think, 50 cents on the dollar for their property. This is all Agenda 21 is what it is.
Everybody wants the insurance companies are big. You have to remember we're up against major bankster corporations, and this goes all the way. It's the same ones that financed Hitler. Same ones. The background.
Yep.
Rothschild,
Yep.
Rockefellers, and that's who runs Facebook and all the agencies and everybody else. And our country is a sham. I'm a U.S. historian, and I'm telling you, we haven't had a legitimate president since they killed Kennedy, and that was Bush. The CIA came in from Nazi Germany. They were SS, and you can go to hoaxofthecentury.com and see all the research somebody has done. And there's a photo there of Bush Sr. as a young guy, and he's in a Nazi Navy outfit. He's sitting in the living room with his parents and other members of the Nazi Party like Bowman, Scorzeni. These were big right-hand assassins for Hitler. And right behind him is his friend Mengele.
Well,
You got to go there and look at that photo. It's riveting. So we haven't had a legitimate government. They've
no.
been like covert. What's that?
Well, this is what upset me so much years ago when I would tell non-targeted people about targets and what's happening with Americans being targeted, and people acted like, well, I don't care as long as it's not happening to me. But if you look, it's happening to everybody now, isn't it? But it's just all in different forms. We're being experimented on for whatever reason, our bodies or whatever they put into us. But these people are being targeted by taking their property and destroying it. So, there's a whole agenda to target the whole world. And, if people would have woke up and cared about our cries when we were trying to tell them that something's not right, maybe it would have been different by now. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, it might have been, but the problem is, what's the CIA famous for? Mind control. And they've been researching that 70 plus long years, I think thousands, quite frankly. Freemasons going on, and these secret societies, like Kennedy said, and the monolithic conspiracy. And he said they had a plot to take our freedoms from us, and darn if they haven't. But I see massive mind control going on. I mean, at some points it's so bad that they're using people's egos. Like say the ego is to look into the cell phone and do a selfie, and I mean going out of their way. These poor people. And I know I'm caught in a virtual CERN moment, and I can feel it, and I got to fight it. And I'm looking at these people, and I have self-awareness, and they don't. They have no earthly idea. It's really sad. I'll see a lot of it in the grocery store, and it's in my opinion that the massive mind control, and I've been seeing it for several years now, longer actually. I started seeing it in late 2005, early 2006. Um, is that they're taking control of humanity, so that when Planet X and its system is about to hit, understanding the 5G, and it's over.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
sprayed us for years, the chemtrails, and it's biological, it's synthetic. Go to dataasylum.com, explains it pretty good. It's smart dust and it's nanotech, nanites. These nanites are in the air, and we've all breathed them in. We're swimming in it. We just can't see them. They're that small. And that's how they're taking control of people. Yeah, and it's a quantum computer system, so they can program the matter, programmable matter. And this stuff self-replicates. This is what's causing people to have V2K and causing people to get angry. And like you said, the microwave scalar weapons and all. Isn't it strange? Like I sit here in my home and I got drones attacking me. But the people that live all around me, if I went and told them, they'd think I was crazy.
Yeah.
Personally, if I felt my neighbor had drones from the sky on them, I'd be marching to D.C., because
Yeah.
they're paying.
Well, that's one of the things that the targeted community has to realize, that they got to quit thinking that they can write their congressman or go to the government and they're going to help them, because they're just going to the perpetrators themselves, and they're just being, pacified and laughed at, really, basically. Isn't that what they did with the oversight committee? They acted like they were so, they sat there and listened, but I could tell when I watched the video, because they were looking at their watches like, oh, your 3 minutes is up, like, come on, they were just playing it out. And then what did they do? They sent them a rubber stamp letter. We can't help you. Don't contact us again. You know, so, I mean, quit going to the perps and asking them for help. All you're doing is insulting your intelligence.
I made so many phone calls. I held signs up. I did a lot. I would just go up to strangers and tell them. And I did have the attention of maybe two different ladies. One, she didn't know. She wanted to help, but she didn't know what to do. She was an older lady, and she said she heard about it. She heard people were getting attacked with satellite weapons. And I mean, I can see them right over the houses.
Yeah.
I look up in the sky. I know that's not a star from day one. But I notice people, if they don't see the crazy, horrific looking skies over the years, with this bright second sun and, all these, right now I don't like the color of the skies. Are you noticing that?
Oh, well, let me tell you, I was out there on my mower today, and I thought that I was going to die from the sun. I was like, oh my God, I used to be able to cut my whole yard, and I could only do part of it because I just couldn't take it. I had to come in, and I was like, oh my God. Even my dog, he was going nuts. I had to bring him in while I went back out and forced myself to do some more. But, I mean, the whole planet has changed. And yes, we are seeing a lot of stuff in the skies. There are people that are videoing. In fact, my roommate actually showed me a video today where he said, look at this woman videoed in Florida, and she was showing the sun. She said it's like all yellow. It's yellow on our skin. She said it's really weird looking. Everything's yellow. And then she turns around to the east, and here's this red aura coming off of the ocean, red ray going like someone's shooting a beam up in the sky. And she goes, what in the F is that? And I guess he said she had put this up on YouTube, but they took it down because she kept saying, what the F is this? And but it was bizarre. I mean, I was just looking at that in awe, going, oh my God. And I just looked at my roommate and I said, it's not going to be long. Maybe that's what I'm feeling. I don't know. But I just have this overwhelming feeling of the time is real short.
Same here. Same here. It's a burden on me right now. I mean, I can't sleep right now. The last couple of days, it's just I know it's when we are there, we
Yeah.
are there.
Now I know
I know
everybody
it. I just
wants Samuel to come back next week. I'm still, not feeling that great, you guys. I, I know everyone doesn't know what's going on with me, but I'll tell you what's going on. I'm having heart palpitations. I'm having chest pain in my heart where it hurts so bad sometimes, and I was like, oh, and I'm dealing with it. I'm treating myself holistically in that, but and it's weird because it'll come and it'll hurt for like 2 days and then it'll go away. So I don't know if it's like from the Schumann's resident, that uh, WSO talks about how the Schumann's is affecting everybody's heart. And actually, my roommate is having the same thing. Every once in a while, he'll have the heart palpitations, or if it's we're under attack or what. So next week will be pending on how I feel. If I'm feeling that bad, I will push him back a week. But if I'm feeling up to it, I will bring him out here. So the only way you're going to know is just check to see if I'm out here or not.
I think this system. I'm having heart palpitations too lately. And very strong as well. Very,
Yeah.
like I'm. My
Is
head's
it like
bad.
you're like around my heart aches? It's like it's aching all the time. And then when it hurts, it's like it's a stabbing pain. And it hurts so bad I have to lay down. That's why I couldn't do that show. I mean, Samuel had called me and said, "Are we still on?" And he said, "You don't sound good at all." I said, "Well, I could try to do an hour." He goes, "No, I don't want you to push yourself." So that's why I'm up in the air on, I mean, it'd be a little easier if Robert was here with me to try to cover when I'm not, I could just lay back and let him do the talking. But Robert, I haven't talked to him at all since his mother passed. I've emailed him, messaged him, and I keep telling him I'm worried about him. And he messaged me one time, said that he's feeling uh, overwhelmed when his mother passed away. He can't stop crying and he doesn't want to talk or be around anyone. I am so worried about him. Please keep him in your prayers because his heart is broken too, and I think he's basically giving up. I don't know. I'm just worried about him.
Such a nice guy, very nice.
Well,
Sorry to
hopefully
hear.
he'll get in touch with me soon. He said that he wasn't coming back on the shows for a long, long time, if ever. And that doesn't bother me. I don't want him to come back on the show if he doesn't want to, but I would like to at least know that he's okay and talk to him, but he won't answer the phone to me.
It just keep calling him, letting him know, you're thinking about him, maybe on his voicemail, and just be patient and let him. He'll come out of it on his own.
Another thing with the heart problem here, I'm wondering if it's because they're setting up the 5G.
Okay, I never thought of that. They're in a rush
You know,
as well.
I have a guy that I've been in contact with that is an expert on the 5G and what what the cell phone radiation, what the microwave radiation, and the 5G will do to our body. And I'm going to book him. I'm going to see if I can get him out here to let you guys know because I spent some time talking with him on the phone, and what I found out is going to blow you away. Have him because I don't want to have him not feel well enough to bring him on. So I'm going to have Samuel try to come next week, and then let me see. This guy's name is Kevin Modus. You might want to look him up on YouTube. It's Motus, I think it is, and he talks all about what the cell phone, and it's interesting too what he told me about the cell phones. He said a lot of women, when they don't want to carry their cell phone, they stick it in their bra, And he go, do you realize you're microwaving your breasts and your chest and your heart when you do that? And he said all it takes, and he said there's been an uptake with colon cancer and testicle cancer because men are keeping their cell phone in their back pocket or in their front pocket, and you don't realize it, but he said every 8 seconds that phone pings off of a tower, and every time it pings, it sends out a burst of microwave. So, when you're holding that phone or putting it in your bra or putting it in your pocket, you're microwaving your body every 8 seconds. You're sending a pulse of microwave into your body. And he said that is why there's an uptake in colon cancer, testicle cancer, and breast cancer, because people aren't aware of what these smartphones are doing to our bodies. So he will be very interesting to have on. Just keep me in your prayers, you guys, so that I can get well enough and get out here and start spreading the truth some more.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to miss your call. I think was it last week when you had him on, Sam on, and it got
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Oh, hi, Robert from Waterford. Sorry you came in so late. You missed a good show. And that's another thing with the way they have changed TalkShoe around. I have no idea how to send out the reminders to everybody, the email reminders. I've looked and looked and looked, and and I haven't had the time to go into one of their training things, but I finally did find my reviews. They're there, but you got to search for them. I do not like this new setup at all. It's just Greek to me. But sorry, I can't send you guys out reminders, so you're just going to have to, check my window and see if I'm on. In fact, if it doesn't show that I got a show scheduled, don't believe that, because when I got hacked last week, whoever hacked me, I had a show scheduled, took it down. So I had to put it up 15 minutes before I came on the air. So all I can say is, just keep looking to see if I'm out here on Friday night. I'm going to try to get out here as much as I can, because I do feel the time is short. But like I said, Samuel's open to come back next Friday. So if I'm feeling up to it, we will be out here. So just come take a look and see if we're here. And I'll try to do the best I can to get out here as much as I can, you guys. Just I've been really under a lot of attack here, and I just try not to talk about it. I just try to carry on and what do they call them, my big girl panties up, and carry on just like Huggy Bear. Got to do the best you can with what you got. We don't know when we're going to leave this planet, how long we're going to be here, if we're going to transform into the fifth dimension or whatever, but whatever happens, I have no fear of any of it, and I am prepared. I'm ready for a change, and I'm sure the rest of you are too. And on that note, I'm going to sign off for tonight. And that's another thing, I can't play bumper music, so we won't have a closing bumper song. And I thank you guys all for joining me. I love you all, and tune in next week, and we'll see what Samuel has to say. I will say one thing, I'm good friends with Samuel on Facebook, and if you go over, look him up on Facebook, Samuel Hoffman, Hoffman, and look at some of the photos that he's putting up now. Phenomenal stuff. I mean, phenomenal. And same with Robert Evans too. Robert H. Evans, he's out there on Facebook. I've been sharing a lot of Robert's pictures. I mean, you would not believe pictures of the blue Kachina that are huge, and also the two objects that are around the sun. Robert has a lot of that up there too. So anyways, I love you all. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show, and look for me next week. This is Bad Baby. Good night.